Welcome guys to the first tutorial of the data structures and algorithm course. In this chapter we'll be covering arrays and sequences. So first thing I'd like to inform you guys before we get started that I'll be posting these videos every Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays and Sundays. And finally, you guys should know that this course will not be heavy on theory but then more on practical work so that you understand the underlying data structures and use this data structure to actually problem solve. So low-level arrays and sequences. So arrays are collections of stored items in memory. The main types of sequences that we'll focus on is your lists, your tuples, your strings. And you can identify a list by curly brackets, your tuple by, you can identify your lists by square brackets, your tuples by curly brackets, and your strings by quotation marks. So these sequences can be indexed to find a certain element within the given sequence. So dynamic arrays. Dynamic arrays, this is a growable or resizable array. You do not need to specify how large an array is beforehand. However, there are key elements that you need to keep in mind when implementing a dynamic array. The first thing is the key is to provide means to grow this array A. Secondly, if an element is appended when the array is full, we have to resize this array with the given steps below. First thing, you have to define or create array B with a larger capacity than A. Secondly, set all items from A to B from index 0 to n-1. And thirdly, make your array A equal to array B. Then finally, now that you have a larger array B, not B, but then A, you then append that element into the new resized array A. So let's visually understand what's happening with this resizing, growing, whatever, right, of this dynamic array A. So first thing, you have to understand that we have an array A with 3 elements here. So if I wanted to append an element here in this 4th element, I wouldn't be able to because the capacity of this array A is 3, as you can see here. So what we do is we create an array B that is 2 times the array A, right? And then when we're having this array B that is 2 times array A, we then take all elements in array A, we make them equal to array B, or we append all those elements from array A to be in array B. And then finally, we make array A equal to array B. And then now we have our new dynamically resized array A. So let us code this thing up so that we understand actually how this code of this dynamic array is actually done or implemented. Okay, so let's try and implement this dynamic array so that we understand how it works or how it's done. And I'm neglecting the low-level arrays because there's a pre-assumed idea that the person watching these videos has the few basic knowledge of programming, so you should be well acquainted with your lists, tuples, etc. So let's each and every code lastly will be on my GitHub page, and I'll give you guys a link to my GitHub page. So we need to import this module, your ctypes module. So with this module, this will be our row array holder, or it will be the module that will make our array. So we define this class dynamic array, and then we pass in this object. So we need some few attributes for our dynamic array or array, whereby we'll have self.n. So this will actually be the attribute which will be keeping count of each and every element within the array. So by default it will be 0 because we have nothing inside this array as yet. And then we need the capacity of this array, which by default will also be not 0 but then 1. And we need our array itself, which will be A, and then we need to use a method which will be the make array, whereby we'll make use of the module that I said above, is the C types module. So the self the capacity that we're passing in. So here we need some few special methods, that is your len method, to determine the length of the array. So we will return self.n, and we need another special method, that is your get item, whereby we'll index the array to get the specific value based on the index value. So we can say index, and then here we need to make some few checks, that if the index value that the user specifies is out of bounds, we need to return that. So we'll check that if not in the following bounds, we then have to return an index error and say the index value is out of bounds. And then if it's not out of bounds, it means that we have to return that specific value, and there we go. And then we also need to display the following items of the items within the array. And then we say for I in range, for I in self.a, and then we print out I, and then there we go. So this will print out each and every item within the array itself. And then finally we need to append elements within this array. So here, that's where the implementation of the dynamic array comes into play here. So we need to check if our capacity isn't full. So we'll say self.n. If self.n is equal to self.capacity, and then we know that our array is full, and then we have to resize this array, and then resize, and then we increase the capacity of the given array. So the special method resize I will define below, and then after resizing this array, now we need to append this append method. We need to make our private method, that is the resize method. So we're making this thing private because there's no need for, there's some methods that a user doesn't have to make use of directly, but then indirectly. So we'll need the new capacity, or the capacity we could say, but then just for us to actually understand and to make our code clear, we'll say new capacity. So from the visualization that we had on the PowerPoint slides, we said that when we resize it, we need a new array, that is B, that will be 2 times, or that will be 2 times the array A. So we'll say B is equals to self.make array, and then we pass in the new capacity. So from there, we need to take all elements from A and put them in B. So we'll say for I in range self.n, and then say B I smaller to I is equals to self.a I. And then from there, we need to now make A equal to the bigger array B, and then we say self.a is equal to B. And then now we also need to update our capacity, that will be self.capacity is equal to new capacity. So with this method, we then resize our array, and then finally we need the make array method, whereby we also pass in the capacity. And then with this, we'll say return new capacity times. Now we make use of the ctypes module, ctypes.py underscore object, and then we should now have our implemented dynamic array. So let's test this out and see if this array is actually doing what we want. So let's say array is equals to dynamic array, and then array.append, and then we can append 5, array.append, and then let's append 6. So if we display this, we should actually see 5 and 6. So when we display this, we'll see that we should get our 5 and 6. There we go. And then if we say print the len of the array, we should get your 2. And yeah, we're getting this 2 here because we didn't make a new line after displaying our values. So we can say print, and then we create a new line. So let's rerun this and then see if we actually getting what we should get. And then there we go. Now we get our length as 2. So now let's go through this one last time line by line so that you guys can clearly understand. So here we imported the module ctypes, whereby we'll be using this as a raw array holder. So we can store array holder, and then we have a class dynamic array, and then we have few attributes that we made here, and that is your self.n with the default of 0, self.capacity with the default of 1, and then our make array. And then we have the special method length that will return the length of the given array. And then we have this other special method called getItem, whereby we index the array to get the value that we want. And then we make a few checks that if this index value is not within this bounds, then we definitely know for sure that the value is out of bounds. And then if not, we then return the value. And then lastly, we use not lastly, but then we now have this display method, whereby we display each and every item within the array. And then now the method that actually makes this array dynamic is the append method, whereby we first check that is this capacity of the array that we're having full. If it is full, then we resize this array, and then we make this array 2 times larger. And then finally we then append the element that we wanted to append on the last index value, that will be the self.n, and we increase the count of our elements. And then we have our private method, that is the resize method, whereby we make or initialize the array B to being 2 times the array A, and then we take all elements or our items from A, we put them in B, and then we make B equals to A, and then we update our capacity. And then finally, we now have our make array, whereby we return that row array that I was talking about using the C types module. And then this will be everything about the dynamic array. And on the next tutorial, we'll be now solving problems or classic interview questions using arrays and sequences and the knowledge that we have on arrays and sequences. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial.